and welcome to the Athletic Brewing post-race report for IRONMAN 70.3 Zell See-Kaprun. I'm Laura Siddall, and let's head straight to the race and catch up on all the action. IRONMAN 70.3 Zell See-Kaprun, a truly stunning location between mountain, glacier and lake in the heart of Austria. The 14th race in the 2025 Ironman Pro Series and the last stop before we head to the World Championships. For the men, the Ironman World Championships in Nice is just 2 weeks away. The cannon firing at the start of the race, the Roka swim in the pristine waters of Lake Zell. A straight out and back course, so limited turn buoys to break it up. German Yannick Schaufler was pushing the pace at the front, stringing out the field, but not specifically causing any separation. Just further back, the bulge of athletes hanging on. A truly spectacular backdrop as the pros headed back to the swim exit. Age group athletes starting their race heading out in the opposite direction. Schaufler, who has been racing middle distance the last couple of years, has a WTCS background, making him one of the better swimmers in the sport. He's been first out of the water in all his 70.3 races this year. And once again, Schaufler would be first out, leading out the water, with fellow German Fabian Kraft hot on his heels. In fact, the first 14 men out of the water would be separated by just 20 seconds. A long transition could perhaps give athletes a chance to break away, but a large group of athletes headed out onto the Zoot bike course. This men's field, including 70.3 specialists and champions, first-timers in the Pro Series, and a few with their last hit-outs before the Ironman World Championships in Nice. As the leaders headed out onto the bike course, the next group of men were a further 20 seconds back. Kraft, racing in his first Ironman Pro Series race, but was recently crowned Ironman 70.3 European champion, would be leading a huge pack of athletes, now about 20 seconds separating them all. The changing terrain and elevation would cause jostling with such a large group of athletes climbing at different speeds and having to make passes. The swim leader, Schaufler, one of these athletes trying to get to the front, also perhaps a better position in the group to cover any breaks or to try and break away himself. American Kevin McDowell also in this pack and pushing the pace at the front. The American newer to the half-distance racing, but his last result a third at 70.3 Boulder. He's been getting better and better, but this would be his first test in Europe. As the picturesque course and climbs went on, it really didn't break up the race. A few athletes would surge or drop off the back, but on the whole, a large group of athletes remained together at the front. McDowell would get a gap of 20 seconds, but by 60 kilometres it was all back together. McDowell, Kraft, Schaufler, Main, Nick Thompson, Gregor Payeur and more. And as they headed along this stunning 90-kilometre course, there was of course lots of support from the locals watching on, those cows in the field. As the men reached T2, everyone's still together, perhaps 5 athletes with a small gap, but really insignificant the other athletes right behind. And with such a large group off the bike together, the run could certainly be interesting. Perhaps who pushed on the bike versus those who'd sat in the group. And again, a long transition to get around that track and out onto the Hoka run course. Fabian Kraft wasn't hanging around, the first to make his move. The 26-year-old and fastest runner on paper was taking control of the race right from the start of the run as they ran along the stunning shore of Lake Zell. Behind, it was McDowell and Gregor Payeur from Luxembourg, locked together but moving away from the rest of the men. Payeur was on the podium in third at Zell in 2024. As the kilometres passed, Kraft extended his lead. Kraft in his races in 2025 has always been the top 2 run splits. And it would be 16 kilometres before Payeur would manage to break away from McDowell. Kraft still extending his lead at the front, looking to add another win after his 70.3 European title. Payeur was securing his position in second. And in the end, there was no stopping Fabian Kraft, the German taking his second win of the year, a new run record 109.45, and overall course record 3:44.31. Gregor Peyer finished a step higher than in 2024, coming in second. And the Aussie Nick Thompson made up time and positions in the final 5K to take the last podium spot in third, his best 70.3 outside of Oceania. Our professional women's field was stacked with several of the overall Pro Series contenders, sitting a few more weeks before the World Championships in Kona, a chance to get a 70.3 score on the board, ensuring 2 70.3 races counting, or perhaps a safety net before Kona and the 70.3 Worlds in Marbella. Britain's Kat Matthews looking to move back to the top of the Pro Series ranking, ready to defend her Pro Series title from 2024. So far, Kat has only dropped 120 points from otherwise maximum scores, that 120 when she finished second at Hamburg, just 2 minutes behind Laura Philipp. The cannon once again signalling the start in Lake Zell, and as expected, it was New Zealand's Beck Clark who would assert herself at the front of the race. Those two red caps leading, the second Lisa Perterer, the Austrian racing at home. Similar to the dynamics of the men's race, Clark was pushing the pace and stringing the women out, but again, no separation at the front, with a front large pack. Clark hit the shore, Britain's Davy Davis, Perterer all in there as well. In fact, the first 9 women out of the water all within 16 seconds. But impressively, Kat Matthews was also in that front pack. A great swim from Kat, putting her in a commanding position early on in the race. The long run through transition, again from the water to the bike, the women all jostling for position, wanting to be through quickly and out onto the Zoot bike course. Clark was first out again, the rest following, Matthews and Perterer in there as well. The next group of women from the swim, 1 minute 20 to 2 minutes back from the lead. A big ask to get back to that front group with the calibre of women up ahead. With a great swim from Kat, she would quickly make her way to the front of the race, putting down the power and taking control on the bike. A dropped chain from one of the women's in that lead pack, Davy Davis, meant she lost her position with that front group, but managed to get it fixed pretty quickly, so not losing too much time or places overall. Matthews, however, was still pushing hard at the front, also pushing blind, racing without a power meter and going on feel. And as Matthews split up the pack, Perterer emerged in second as the chaser. Perterer having a fantastic season, sitting in the top 10 of the Pro Series. Norway's Solveig Lofseth, another short course athlete who successfully moved to the long distance, struggling a little bit on the bike and losing time to the front, but holding in third and fourth with Swift's athlete Nina Deron. Whilst at one point Matthews had stretched her lead to just under a minute over Perterer, the Austrian was now reversing that gap, and Perterer pushing hard in the middle third to bridge back up to Matthews. Both these women exceptional bike riders and would use each other to push and get the best out of themselves and each other as they weaved through the Austrian countryside. Matthews has been training in Austria and at altitude for the past few weeks, so would likely be just as familiar with these roads as the local Austrian Perterer. Both also, though, likely in a big Ironman training block for Kona. Matthews would dismount at T2 with a new bike course record, 2:17.52, Perterer in second. In fact, Matthews, Perterer and Lofseth, who would arrive in T2 in third, 3:43 down, all would break the previous bike course record. As the women headed around transition and onto the Hoka Run, 21.1 kilometres, 13.1 miles of stunning lakeside running ahead of them, Kat was in strong form, using the early kilometres to settle into a good pace and gain a few seconds over Perterer. Another example of Kat's strength of bike-run combo. With every second counting, Perterer would want to stay as close as possible to Matthews. Lofseth was in third, and whilst running well, wasn't matching the pace of the front two, but was keeping ahead of Nina Deron in fourth. As the women hugged the beautiful shoreline of Lake Zell, where they had started their race a little over 3 hours earlier, the front three were looking fairly well established, all running well and holding positions. Matthew has her eyes firmly set on Kona, the World Championship title, and should take confidence from the race in Austria, taking her second 70.3 win for the year, a maximum of 2,500 points, another course record to her name. Always smiling and happy, Austrian Lisa Pertra soaking in the Austrian crowd to finish in second. And Solveig Loftseth rounding out the podium in third, her fourth podium of the year. So, to recap, the top 10 men in Austria: Fabian Kraft with the win and course record, Gregor Peyer from Luxembourg in second, Aussie Nick Thompson in third. Both Lasse Priester and Cam Main passed McDowell in the final stages to finish in fourth and fifth, McDowell in sixth. Chris Leiferman, Damien Lemesnager, Justin Toffer, Jonas Hoffmann rounding out the top 10. The results of 70.3 Zell had very little impact on the overall Ironman Pro Series rankings for the men. Leon Chevalier still holding that top spot. The only change, Dominik Sovica moving up 6 spots to now sit in the top 10. Jonas Hoffmann and Nick Thompson, the other big moves, but just sit outside the top 10 in 11th and 13th respectively. And so to our top 10 women in Austria, well, Kat Matthews, another win, her third of the year, another bike and course record. Lisa Pertra enjoying a home country race in second, Solveig Loftseth in third. All three going under the previous course record. Matthews that 4:08.50, taking 8 minutes off the previous record. Laura Janssen, a great race, finishing fourth. Nina Deron fifth. Daisy Davis overcoming her mechanical to finish sixth. Charlene Cloval, Loan Duvoisin, Marta Lagovicnik and Rebecca Clark rounding out the top 10. Those results in Austria made for change at the top of the Ironman Pro Series for the women. Matthews back on top, 14,880 points, just 120 points dropped after that second in Hamburg. Loftseth's third in Austria puts her second overall in the rankings, with Lisa Pertra moving into third. Laura Janssen enters the top 10 in 8th. And now it's all eyes on the World Championships. First up, the Ironman World Championships for the men in Nice, France on the 14th of September. This has been your Athletic Brewing post-race report. Au revoir and see you in France.